And he also wrote this: I am no longer willing to permit a pedophile, rapist, and traitor to coat my hands with his crimes. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I was waiting for you to read that because I knew you would, because you're horrible people, horrible people. Yeah, he did write that. I'm not a rapist. I didn't rape anybody.
Do you think he was referring to you?
Excuse me. I'm not a pedophile. You read that crap from some sick person. I got associated with all stuff that has nothing to do with me. I was totally exonerated. Your friends on the other side of the plate are the ones that were involved with, let's say, Epstein or other things. But I said to myself, I'll do this interview and I read the manifesto. He's a sick person, but you should be ashamed of yourself reading that, because I'm not any of those things.
Mr. President,
and I
these
was
are
never,
the gunman's words.
Excuse me. You shouldn't be reading that on 60 Minutes. You're a disgrace. But go ahead. Let's finish the interview.
It's Ken Harbaugh with the MeidasTouch Network. On Saturday night, shots were fired at the White House Correspondents Dinner. A gunman charged a security checkpoint at the Washington Hilton, exchanged fire with the Secret Service, and was taken down before he could reach the ballroom where the president, vice president, and hundreds of journalists were gathered. One Secret Service officer was struck, saved by his vest. No one else was seriously hurt. In the aftermath, attacks on the media have already begun. While Democratic leaders immediately condemned the shooting, there is growing fear that the Trump administration will use it as a pretext to crack down on freedom of speech. Remember what happened in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination. America experienced the most sweeping crackdown on political speech we've seen in decades. While guest hosting Kirk's podcast, J.D. Vance called for citizens to report on their neighbors. The State Department revoked visas. Pete Hegseth ordered a military purge. And the FCC had Jimmy Kimmel suspended. That machinery is ready and waiting. There is no excuse for political violence or the encouragement of it in a democracy. Democratic leaders have been clear about that. Republican leaders, not so much. After Paul Pelosi was nearly beaten to death with a hammer, the attack was mocked not just by right-wing trolls, but by Republican leaders and by the president himself. After a right-wing extremist assassinated Minnesota Democrat Melissa Hortman and her husband, Trump never even mentioned her name while ordering flags nationwide lowered to half-mast for Charlie Kirk. Trump recently took to social media to spread conspiracy theories about Hortman's murder. And who can forget this, when Trump on the campaign trail suggested that the Second Amendment crowd might be able to do something about Hillary Clinton.
If she gets to pick her judges, nothing you can do, folks. Although the Second Amendment people, maybe there is, I don't know. But
Donald Trump has a long history of encouraging violence and then using moments where violence erupts as a pretext for attacking American civil liberties. Right now, in countries that have experienced fascist takeovers, there is talk of America's Reichstag moment, evoking the burning of Germany's parliament in 1933 and Hitler's subsequent declaration of a national emergency. It is those in the media who dare criticize Trump and his policies who will be enemy number one. Trump has literally called the media the enemy of the people. I wanted to talk to someone who has personally been targeted by the Trump propaganda machine, but who continues to hold the regime accountable. Harry Sisson is a political commentator and social media influencer who has become one of the most visible young voices calling out this administration's descent into fascism, and who knows firsthand what it's like when the regime comes after you. Here's our conversation. Harry, thanks so much for joining us. Wish we could talk about other things this morning, but we have to cover the White House Correspondents Dinner and that horrific shooting. There has been a chorus of condemnation from Democratic leaders, Democrats of all stripes. I mean, I think this is in our DNA to reject political violence in any form. I don't think that has been reciprocated by the Republican Party, something you've called out. But what's your gut reaction in the immediate aftermath of this horrific act of violence and the Republican response?
Well, I think you're right. I think it is in our DNA to condemn this. And, every major Democrat has. They've come out and talked about how awful this is, how it never should have happened. And whether it's Donald Trump or someone we agree with, political violence is never acceptable. I wish the Republicans had that same mentality when it came to their political opponents or people they disagree with. After the shooting, there was a lot of Republicans on social media essentially declaring civil war for like the millionth time on Democrats and saying that we're the worst people ever, we're traitors, all that stuff. And yet just a month ago, Donald Trump was on social media saying it's a good thing that Robert Mueller died. And then before that, he was talking about the murders in Los Angeles, saying that they had TDS and whatnot. And so,
the Reiner murders.
The Reiner,
Rob
the Reiner family, saying that they died of TDS, which is just such an inhumane and disgusting thing to say after someone had been murdered not even 24 hours before. And so, we will always come out and condemn this stuff. I just wish the Republicans were on the same page. But regardless of what approach they take, we know what's right, we do what's right, and everybody's condemning this.
It's Ken with a quick break to tell you about Meidas Defense, our latest news lineup on the Meidas Plus Substack. We've got regular reports on the war with Iran and the broader geopolitical fallout, plus critical updates you're not going to see anywhere else. Every installment features expert guests and insightful commentary from people who've been in the arena. Navy SEALs, combat vets, senior intelligence analysts, and DC insiders like Scott McFarlane, MeidasTouch's chief Washington correspondent. Find us on the Meidas Plus and Ken Harbaugh Show Substack channels. Check out the links below. Thanks. Do you think the Republican Party has always had this fascination or proclivity for violence, or is it something that Trump has elevated? I'm thinking about his long history of encouraging violence, of celebrating violence, pre-political. I mean, back to the exonerated five, formerly the Central Park Five, right? Up through the campaign where he implored the Second Amendment crowd to take care of Hillary Clinton. And my memory of republicanism growing up doesn't have this association with this fascination, almost this fetishization of violence. Is Trump key to it somehow?
Yeah, I think Donald Trump is entirely responsible for this culture of violence, this culture of extreme views on the right. And I think back to like 2008. Which was not all that long before Donald Trump really got involved in politics. And I think of that clip of John McCain, who's speaking to a voter in the crowd, and she was saying something along the lines of, "I'm scared of Obama because he's a Muslim." And he takes the microphone and says, no, he's a good family man. You have nothing to be worried about. We just have fundamental disagreements. That is only 8 years before Donald Trump got involved in politics. Fast forward to him. Then we have people invading the Capitol. We have people targeting Democratic officials. We have things like this taking place. And Donald Trump wants to say it's entirely on the left, but rather I think it's inspired by Donald Trump's rhetoric. I think when he is making threats against Hillary Clinton, when he is posting photos and videos of Joe Biden hogtied on Truth Social, I mean, this all contributes to an environment of violence. And Donald Trump really doesn't have a problem with it. I mean, after January 6th, he pardoned all of those people. And he's talked about at rallies like, hey, if you punch a heckler, I'll pay your legal fees. And this is not who we are as Americans. And we can really just look at a moment in time and be like, that is where this culture of violence in politics really began. And it wasn't because Joe Biden was out there talking about the soul of America or Obama was talking about the Affordable Care Act. It's because Donald Trump was behaving in this manner.
I think you're right. And I think it is part of who he is. And we've talked to people close to Trump. I mean, family members, Mary Trump, who says this is part of Trump's DNA, this penchant for violence. But it's also instrumental in a way, in that every time his rhetoric either provokes or instigates an actual outburst of violence, the regime is ready to leverage it. The regime is ready to use that violent incident to crack down or to make a cynical point. And I fear that what we're going to experience in the wake of this shooting, like we did after Charlie Kirk's horrific assassination, is another crackdown. It feels like they're already laying the groundwork for that.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Donald Trump do this before. Major national events that get a lot of news, he will try to leverage into enacting his agenda. I mean, think about 2020. He lost the election. And what did he try to do? Make it harder to vote. He say that mail-in ballots are somehow fraudulent or that voting across the United States is just tampered no matter what. Think about COVID. I mean, COVID was a disaster for him. People blamed him for COVID, and now he's engaging in science denialism. He has RFK Jr. doing whatever the hell RFK Jr. is doing at the HHS. And so he will always use national events or tragedies to leverage it into political power and try to get his agenda passed or more policy passed. And I think specifically on people's rights or freedom of speech after this, he's going to go to Congress and try to pass. Maybe it's the SAVE Act. Maybe it's the ballroom and something else. It's yet to be seen. But, I think the best thing that the people can do is stay informed and aware. And remember that the midterms are not all that far away. So if your Republican representative or your Democrat, whoever it might be in Congress, is not doing a good enough job of pushing back against Donald Trump after something like this, then we have time to get him out of office.
Can you help us understand the ballroom fixation? Because that seems almost coordinated, not almost coordinated. You've seen the right-wing influencers coordinate with each other to make this the policy result of this shooting. In a way, we're lucky because I think the worst is definitely yet to come. I'll trade a ballroom for our civil liberties any day. But why are they so fixated on the ballroom, especially as a response to this shooting?
It's so weird. And I've really been trying to figure out one of the main reasons why Republicans are so interested in this ballroom. And I think it's almost like a trickle down thing. That being Donald Trump loves his pet projects. And so he's out there, he's like, I want to build this ballroom. And he doesn't really care about the policy. He doesn't care about making people's lives better. He just wants his ballroom. And because he wants it so bad, he will use tragedies to hopefully get it passed and hopefully get people supporting it. And then the Republicans just kind of follow suit. That's what I mean by the trickle down. Whatever Trump says, whatever his priority is, they will follow. And I think the main point about the ballroom that Republicans are just obviously not being honest about is, they're saying it's necessary for security. Well, the lawsuit that's currently dealing with the ballroom has nothing to do with the security of it. The underground portion that is secure, this was talked about by Seth MacFarlane here at MeidasTouch, that part is actually not in litigation. They're moving forward with the underground security part. They just have a major issue with this huge ballroom that's sitting in the former East Wing that was just knocked down without congressional approval or anything like that. And that's the case. That's what it's surrounding. But nobody on the left or right or whoever has any problem with security. We just don't want all these private companies and taxpayers paying for this ballroom and having no transparency on who's funding it.
It's amazing how much of the policy of the right wing, how much of their narrative is just driven by the day-to-day fixations of the president, regardless of any coherent strategy. If he wants a gilded ballroom, it's what the Republicans are going to talk about. But I think we're naive to think that they won't move on to more serious things like they did after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, where Jimmy Kimmel almost got suspended, where they purged the military. Pete Hegseth went on a massive bender purging people who had been even remotely critical of Charlie Kirk. As someone who's been the target of the kinds of attacks that are sure to come, how should we be thinking about the administration's ability to leverage something like this to go after the First Amendment?
I think it's very real. This is not, liberals just talking to talk and being scared to be scared. It's nothing like that. As you just mentioned, Trump has a history of this. Not all that long, less than a year ago, he has a history of this, and it's still kind of happening today. I mean, Hegseth is still on his bender, multiple types of bender, I should say, trying to target, Democrats and people in the military. He's firing people he doesn't think are loyal to him. I mean, this is really a culture that they've created over time, but especially after the shooting of Charlie Kirk. And so I think it's critical that in the days and weeks after this, not only are Democrats out there condemning this, saying this is not who we are, it's never been who we are, but also being incredibly aware of what the administration is doing, what they're arguing in courts, what they're advocating for in Congress, what votes are taking place in the middle of the night when everybody's asleep, hoping that they don't notice. It's critical that people are aware of this stuff and tuned in, because if Trump has the opportunity to kind of secretly attack our civil liberties without having a big fuss from the Democrats or the people, he will absolutely do it. And I'm just really nervous as to what kind of comes next with this and what will be the thing that he tries to focus on as a result.
That was an excerpt of my conversation with Harry Sisson. For the full interview, check out my Substack. The link is below. Thanks.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.